Hey, welcome to another More Than a Refresh T3D session. Today we have Greg back. This is part of the command prompt series, not the T3D sessions, but when you see command prompt people, we are here to provide interesting or useful insights into problems and solutions within our realm. And this time around, we are talking about AWS. Greg, why don't you expand on what your thoughts are when it comes to AWS cloud, and we'll go from there.
Sure, JD. Don't get me wrong, AWS is great. It's great because it does give anybody the ability to run services anywhere in the world. You can build globally distributed website or service and put it in front of everybody on the planet, as long as you can convince them to come visit your service.
Well, but that's not unique to AWS. It's also, or Google or anybody else, right? I mean, what they really did there was provide a control panel that allows you to globally manage your stuff, right? It's Plesk on steroids.
Right. It's pretty sweet in that sense. The thing that so in my past history of working for various organizations, the one thing that always kind of comes back is you after a while you're going to have a project that gets you out of a specific vendor. It doesn't matter if it's software or it's a cloud platform or if it's a storage device or if it's
It's your boss who took a plane ride and read CTO magazine.
sometimes, or it's a pricing structure that suddenly changes, or a company gets bought out and then licensing changes. There is all kinds of different. I mean, the largest projects I was ever involved in, they were always involved with changing the platform, going from one software to another, or moving things away. So I kind of always have a this thing back in my back of my mind saying always keep an eye out on your exit strategy, because nothing's forever except for diamonds.
Well, well, and I think that's a good point because a lot of companies nowadays are very short-sighted, and they're short-sighted in the sense that they want to get to MVP, and then they don't plan beyond that, and then they end up exploding. Hopefully, I mean that's the hope is that they keep growing. I didn't mean but then all of a sudden they hit a ceiling. And a common way to deal with that, and we're picking on AWS, but this does apply to any of the major clouds. A common way to deal with that is like, oh, we'll just launch an S3 instance, we'll launch whatever, document DB, or we'll launch whatever Amazon calls Kafka or whatever. And that works for a short period of time, but like you said, it's not going to last forever. The glory days of reasonably cheap cloud are coming to an end. It's just that simple. There's not going to be in 2 years tops, right? All of a sudden, the real cost of being in the cloud is going to become very apparent, and then the companies are going to have to decide, hey, do we continue to pay this cost or do we migrate out of those services? That's what you're getting at, right?
I don't not entirely sure whether that captures it. I'm not against cloud. It provides a service and it provides a capability that most people don't have. But regardless of what the platform is, and I don't want to drop names like VMware, but there is always a reason at some point to leave. It may be that a new platform or new software has capability that you decide that you need. It may be pricing. It may be you just have a falling out with a vendor, or you have a really bad service support experience. There's always a reason, or your boss sat on next to somebody else on the
read an article.
Yeah, there's always a reason, and to be honest, I like that. Not just because it's more work for us. It's exciting, it's interesting, but I think that once you get kind of locked in with a vendor, you're kind of losing a lot of your negotiating power. And
So are you suggesting that, okay, VMware is a perfect example, right? Because there are people that literally for decades have been on VMware and now they're trying to get off VMware for what is obvious reasons. And let's be very clear. I know there's a lot of people unhappy with VMware, but that's actually Broadcom's strategy. Broadcom doesn't want 1,500 customers running VMware. They want the Fortune 150, and that's it. Right? They want to lock in those mega corporations and provide a level of return on investments for those mega corporations. It's not a bad plan. It just isn't. But are you talking about instead of just building on AWS, you should build on AWS and Azure, for example? Or are you suggesting something else?
What I'm suggesting is that when you're making a decision, when selecting a platform, keep an eye out on how you're going to get out of it. Whether it's 5 years from now or 10 years from now or what may be, right? There is very often, like when I was involved in a software procurement project, almost nobody thinks about, well, how are we going to get out of it? When you're deciding which platform you're going to go into. And I'm always thinking, well, this isn't forever.
So I think you and I are going to disagree here. While I get your point, right? Your point is not incorrect. In fact, I would agree with it. I would say, well, that's a 10-year problem. Or a 5-year problem, right? My problem right now, the John Cena is that I need to deploy X by Y to get the return on investment of Z. That's how most companies think. Most companies are not like Command Prompt where we're thinking, okay, 10 years from now, where are we going to be and how do we continue to provide resilient services to our clients? Most companies we have a service or product right now we need to get to market. So it becomes a 3-5. It is the same reason people lease, right? When they lease hardware, leasing hardware is not actually a better opportunity as a whole, but that's the 3-year problem or the 5-year problem. You depreciate it, you recycle them back in and out. That doesn't mean it's better for the environment or better for society, right? So with these products, while I agree, yes, any good leader, I'm not going to say managers because managers tend to rightfully be focused on literally what's right here. But any good leader should be like, okay, this is good for 5 years. What are we going to do then? And an example, let's take RDS as an example. RDS is a great platform, but you can save an ungodly amount of money just by moving to EC2. You get more features, and then you get a support contract from us. And you're still saving money, right? You are still going to, now not for your $500 a month instance, but for enterprises that are running dozens and dozens of instances, it's actually much cheaper to let us manage your EC2 Postgres versus RDS.
So that's kind of, I think, exactly my point. Let's say you start, we see it with a lot of clients, they start on EC2 and then they decide to move to Aurora or RDS.
Because it's easier.
Because, well, maybe it's easier, maybe it's more performant, maybe it's less management, whatever reasons they might have. So what I would caution them in that case is to kind of look at, well, we are proposing to have this, because it's usually a project, right? It takes a while, maybe a month, plan it out, no downtime migration, moving things over. So then you also need to think, well, this is what we're getting when we're going to this platform, but what are we giving up? Are we giving up the ability to leave just as easily? Is it going to be a even bigger ordeal to get our data out because maybe we are not allowed to have certain permissions or ability to move the data out? Maybe we're giving out ability to manage or deploy some special extensions. Well, that's usually munch in a process of selecting the platform. But basically, moving to RDS or moving to Aurora or anything else, I mean, great, you're getting something for that, and it may cost more as long as you're getting the value right now. But also think like, what about the next Aurora? Maybe Google will come up with some Uber awesome or something.
Let me interject here because we are running low on time, but you have a very good point. You just said the next Aurora or the next RDS. Well, that's what we have now, right? And this is what I mean by this. People are migrating in droves off of Oracle and off of Microsoft SQL to the next. The next is Postgres. Okay, now it may be RDS Postgres, it might be open source Postgres, there's any number of versions. But the question you have to ask yourself as a business person, in my mind, why am I running Aurora or RDS Postgres? Because I've just locked myself in again. I could just run now there are exceptions, okay? I know there are certain companies that are very huge, very large, that cannot run on vanilla Postgres, okay? Absolutely true, and we would never suggest to any client that they should. They should run on Aurora, really, okay? Or Alloy DB or something like that. But what's happened over the last 11 years or so is people are really in droves off of Oracle, off of Microsoft SQL, moving to Postgres. But now the seductress of convenience has overtaken. Oh, you mean I can run, it's basically Postgres, so we'll just run basically Postgres on Alloy DB or on Azure or on Aurora. You ever notice they all start with the letter A? No confusion there. But we basically get Postgres because they're not Postgres. We basically get Postgres. So we're new, we're cool, we're hip, we're open source, but we're not. And now we're in vendor lock-in all over again. Would that be accurate?
That would be accurate.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to your next topic, which we will hit up either later this month, probably not later this month because, well, I'm moving to Montana.